Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustle and dreams in every loop. In the park he starts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a confident grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway hum the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's February 9th, 2025, 10:02 a.m. on the East Coast of America. Let me know if you can hear me okay in the chat. It's Super Bowl Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. Indy Jets is here. Phil Adams is here. Nate is here. Morning Mocha with Frankie. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat. I want to make sure the microphone's working. You never know around here with the hardware. You never know around here with the hardware. So Phil says 100%. All right, good. Hopefully it won't cut out in the middle of the broadcast like last time. You never know with this hardware around here. Picture and sound. Great, says Indy Jets. All right. Well, it is Super Bowl Sunday, and we got a lot of news to go over. It's kind of common practice, I've kind of noticed, for a lot of the national writers to have quote unquote stories or things, items, you might say, on the morning of the Super Bowl. And you wonder why that is. I think they know how, today's a big football day. Let me get my stories out there, whatever stories that they have. But nonetheless, since it is Super Bowl Sunday, and we are a team with a bunch of questions and things going on, good news is that we got some news. Let's take this caption out of here. Change that. And some of these things do have to do with prospects, but we're not going to be talking about prospects today. And we're not going to be talking a lot on this channel about prospects, except sometimes. I mean, we are going to have to talk about the draft and things of that nature, but not going to get into hot debates about about these prospects. There's plenty of channels for people to debate their hot takes on, Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders and whoever else you want to have a hot take about. Will Howard. But I'm not really too interested in getting into hot debates about those people. So, Todd, we're going to talk about some of the Jet news right now. The needs and the news, Todd. So, let's talk about several things. I got a bunch of things lined up here. There's lots of news. So let's get right into the news. Why don't we? There's Jet news. There's Jet related news. Lots of things to go over. Yeah, team with questions and a show with answers. Some answers, not all the answers, but let's get right into some of this news. Share. Let's see if this can work. So, as of 6:30 a.m. today, this morning, as of several hours ago, a report written by Tom Pelissero, the NFL straight as an arrow, and Ian Rapidapaport. Jets, Rams, Steelers, Vikings among teams with QB questions heading into the NFL season. Well, that's not newsworthy. Why are we? But there is some news here. First item here, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers have been in discussions. So that's the first part of the news. Have been in discussions about his future. And a decision on whether the four-time NFL MVP returns to New York could come as soon as this week, per sauces. So those sauces are probably the New York Jets sauces, because I don't think Rodgers camp is talking about it, and he doesn't have much of a camp. So this is interesting in terms of what does have been in discussions mean. So if this means that we just talked to him on the Monday after the season and then we haven't talked to him since then, that's not really newsworthy. But we all knew that. That was, we already knew that. But if this means those discussions have been continuing, then it seems to me he's probably coming back. And this is me reading the tea leaves now. Because if we have had continued discussions, it probably means he's not retiring, right? Like if he's going to retire, there's nothing to talk about. I'm going to retire. Okay, smell you later. Like there's no, what else is there to talk about? But if these are ongoing discussions, that means he's probably coming back to play. And then the question is he going to come back to play for the Jets? And if so, it seems to me also that if these are ongoing discussions, then it probably means he's coming back for us because he's probably talking about all the particulars. He has to take a pay cut. All the things we want him to do. So what about Adams and what about Lazard and what about? In other words, it seems to me that if he's going to come back with us, there's a lot more to talk about in terms of how it's structured, what it looks like, what's Tanner Engstrand going to run, am I going to like it? I got to talk to him and figure out what he's going to run. Is it something I'm willing to run? Is it something I'm down with or not? So it seems to me if he's going to come back, there's a lot more to talk about than if he was going to retire. There's nothing to talk about there. If he's going to retire, it's like, okay, smell you later, bye. And if he wants to go to another team, there's not really much to talk about with us other than now we need to talk about these other teams. Can we get a trade for him, or how's it going to work? Is it going to be a release? But there's not a lot to talk about with Rodgers then if he wants to go to a different team. So it seems to me, reading these tea leaves, that it's looking like Rodgers is going to come back. And I have the theory about the three amigos, that they're all together, which is Rodgers, Adams, and Lazard, and that's also a reason why there would need to be lots of discussion. Because what about Lazard? There's just a lot more to it if he's going to come back to the Jets. So that's newsworthy. Now, Matthew Stafford is going to come back, and what's happening now is the quarterback carousel. We talked about this on Friday night. So the coaching carousel is mostly done. The reports are that Kellen Moore, the paper boy, is going to take the New Orleans job right after the Super Bowl. So then once he gets his staff in place, the coaching carousel, is winding down. So then the next carousel is the quarterbacks, and how each of these things plays out affects the Jets to some extent. Stafford wants to play, so he's going to come back. But there's also a rumor that the Rams want to trade Matthew Stafford. So what does that look like? Who does he get traded to? Like a great place for Stafford and let's say Cooper Kupp to land would be Pittsburgh. Well, if they land in Pittsburgh, that means Pittsburgh's not going to stay with Fields. And then that means Fields is available if we don't have Rodgers. So the quarterback carousel is in full flight now. What about Kirk Cousins? What's going to happen with him? He could stay with Atlanta and become the highest paid backup in NFL history, or they could go another direction. And so we'll see. They said they feel comfortable with him as a backup, but is that just posturing? We don't know. What about the Steelers? Well, they got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and the reports are maybe they prefer Justin Fields. And you saw Russell Wilson's team, PR team that he carries around with him, throw Arthur Smith under the bus recently, saying that, hey, Arthur Smith, late in the season, wouldn't let me change the plays at the line of scrimmage. That's why my play declined late in the season. It wasn't my fault, which is why Russell Wilson has been pretty much, um, let's say, not so well liked at the end of his Seattle tenure, not well liked in his Denver tenure, and now it's looking like the Steelers are souring on Wilson again, mostly probably because of all those PR tricks and media things that he does and his team does. Nobody likes Snake, that's for sure. But it's looking like the Steelers are going to move on to Russell Wilson. So where does Russell Wilson end up? Does he end up back with old Pete Carroll with the Raiders? Probably not. But you could see it. There's been reports they've repaired their relationship. I'm not so sure Pete Carroll wants to do that. But maybe. If they trade for Stafford, obviously they're moving on from both of these guys. And then they both become available. So then what about the Vikings? The Vikings are in an unusual spot. They got Sam Darnold, they got J.J. McCarthy. What do they want to do there? So they could go franchise tag with Darnold. They could go tag and trade with Darnold. They could just let Darnold leave and collect, in their mind, hopefully a comp pick because he'll get a big contract, obviously. And then who does Darnold sign with if he gets to free agency? Is it the Titans? And then if the Titans sign him, then that number one pick, what do they do with that? Does that get traded? Because now they don't need a quarterback with that number one pick. Maybe they want to build the team that way. And do the Vikings really want to go with a 22-year-old first-round pick rookie J.J. McCarthy who had a knee injury? Then he had another procedure, and then he came out that he had ADHD, and so uh, you know. So there's a lot of just sort of mystery surrounding J.J. McCarthy as to what he is, how good he could be in the regular season, and so forth. Do you really want to do that? Or do you want to go that plus maybe a Daniel Jones? Does Daniel Jones want to be an insurance policy? Or does Daniel Jones want to go somewhere where he could really compete for for a starting job, like maybe Pittsburgh, or what they want to do? One thing that seems certain, Seahawks have said nothing to dissuade the impression they're all in on Geno Smith. Kind of unbelievable that Geno Smith is still only 34 years old. So Geno Smith probably has 2-3 years left in him, and he's putting up decent numbers every year. Not amazing, but you can win with him. Every year Geno Smith has been a starter, he has had a winning record. So that's something. So it looks like they're going to stick on Geno. He's not going to get to the market, seems like. He's only going to make $25 million in 2025, putting him at the lower end of the veteran starter pay scale. He'd like a new contract, but let's see what they do. But it looks like they're going to stick with him for next year anyway. So this is all of the things going on with the quarterback carousel. But the news from this morning really is that it's looking like we're going to have some sort of resolution this week, as soon as this week. And remember, Roger said that in his mind, the season doesn't end until the Super Bowl's over. Today is the end of the Super Bowl. So that ends the season, and then I think everybody's going to want to move quickly here. Rogers, us, and it all depends on what these have been in discussions means. If we've been having ongoing discussions with Rogers, it seems to me that he's going to come back. Now, as long as nothing gets derailed, because what's there to talk about if he's going to retire? What's there to talk about if we're going to release him? There's not much to talk about him with, not much to talk about with him in those scenarios. So if this is what it implies, I mean, this implies that there have been ongoing discussions, not just one Monday after the season's over. So there you go. And so now he could not like what we're proposing. Maybe at the end of it, he goes, you know what? All these things you want me to do, I'm not doing them. I'm out of here. You never know with Rogers. So there you go. Um, that's the big news as far as we're concerned. We could get news on Aaron Rodgers as soon as this week. So that's that news item. Uh, Now, tied to that, I guess let's go to this news item. Devontae Adams rumors. There's always rumors about Devontae Adams. Jets wide receiver open to joining Rams Chargers if cut. 49ers linked. 49ers linked. So this really is a nothing burger, in my opinion. Everybody knows that Devontae prefers the West Coast. He was born and raised in Oakland, California, of course. And says here, Fowler reported that Adams is intrigued and he's open to these teams. I don't know. To me, this is not a very good report. Of course, he prefers the West Coast. He's a West Coast guy. But they wrote the Jets must address the future of Adams, whose $38 million cap hit is untenable. A source told me he's intrigued and would be open to joining these teams. Adams has an out in his contract that would carry a dead cap hit in 2025 of just $8.3 million, or a little over $2 million if he were released or traded after June 1st. So it's either we're going to release him, which if Rodgers retires, then I think we release Adams and just it's a start over situation. And we do it as it's June 1st, and we only take a $2 million hit. That's really nothing. Or we're going to have to restructure him. So that's part of the things with Rodgers. Rodgers is going to have to restructure and do a new contract, and then Adams is going to have to do a new contract because this is not good. So it's probably, who do we think is talking to AR and DA17? So AG is probably talking to him mostly in terms of, do you want to come back? Here's what we envision as a coaching staff for you. He's got to be comfortable with Phil. He's got to be comfortable with what we're going to run. So we have Tanner Engstrand here. We have Scott Turner here. He's going to want to know, what are we running? What's the plan? What's the coaching style? What's going to happen? So AG is going to have a number of conversations. And if he's comfortable with all of the on the field stuff, then Muji and our cap people start talking to his agent about what to do about the contract. AG's not going to talk to him about his contract, right? So it's sort of like a structured thing where if he's on board with AG and Engstrand and Turner and the offense we're going to run and how AG is going to run the team, if he's comfortable with all that, then AG goes, all right, great, we'd love to have you. Let's get into the contract. And then Muji and the contract guys will talk to the agent, who is I forget his name. Talk to the agent about the contract. So then the contract will all get worked out by the contract people, and then everybody's happy. And then so it's a combination. I mean, sort of like first he's got to be comfortable with this, then he's got to be comfortable with that, and then if everybody's comfortable with everything, then we're good. DA17. Now there's another report that we haven't talked to him yet. Maybe it's in this. Cooper Cup. No, it's not here. There's another report that we haven't. I think it was on Pro Football Rumors that we haven't yet talked to Devontae about this situation. And that would make sense because, in my theory, the three amigos are all together, and the first domino is Rodgers. So once we figure out Rodgers, then we figure out Adams. So it makes sense that we haven't spoken to him yet. They try to put it out there that, like, okay, the Jets haven't spoken to Adams, therefore, maybe it's likely he's leaving. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's that the three amigos are together, and Rodgers is the first domino. And then once we figure out Rodgers, then we figure out Adams, then we figure out Lazard. So that's what I think, Phil. That's what I think. Now there's a new column from Dick Chimney. So Dick Chimney with his, I guess, weekly column put out this morning talking about San Diego State. Oh, yeah, that's right. San Diego State quarterback room included a future NFL head coach, general manager, and OC. KOC, that is, uh, coach of the year, Kevin O'Connell. Darren Muji, GM of the Jets. And Tanner Engstrand, the OC of your NYJ. That's a lot of brain power in one place. So Cimini called up San Diego State coach Tom Kraft. I'm sure Tom Kraft was not expecting a phone call from ESPN, but he got one, so he was happy to get on the phone with old Dick Chimney. It's really unusual that that group of quarterbacks in that room at that time are in such high places right now, he said. Yeah. Funny story about Tanner. And so Tanner was a quarterback in college. Recalled the game when the Aztecs almost pulled off one of the biggest upsets in college history when the starting quarterback got injured and the junior college transfer walk-on made his major college debut before a crowd of 104,000 people at the Horseshoe. And on the first play, Engstrand was given a choice concept. You could go here, you could go there. And Kraft figured Engstrand would play it safe and check it down. To the surprise of many, threw a 25-yard fade to Jeff Webb, a future draft pick, and Webb dropped it. There you go, he dropped it. Dropped a well-thrown ball that might have gone for a go-ahead touchdown. The outcome of the play was crushing, but the point of the story was Engstrand's quick thinking and fearlessness. Pretty impressive, considering it was such a big stage, Kraft said. So there you go. He was always a guy who had his head down, was working as hard as Kevin and Darren to try to get some type of look and get on the field, said Kraft. Now retired. Yeah, this guy was thrilled to get a call from ESPN. Sitting around in the fishing boat, he gets a call from old Dick Chimney. I was impressed with him as a walk-on, his attitude. He made a lot of stops along the way to get where he is today. Yes, indeed. So there you go. Green on offense. Aaron Glenn's coaching staff is mostly complete. The early takeaway, lots of experience on defense, but not nearly as much on offense and special teams. So this is going to be one of the Dick Chimney talking points. You can see it. He's mentioned it maybe 5 to 10 times already about the inexperience on the offensive side of Glenn's staff. So this is going to be a common theme that we hear from Dick Chimney. So just keep that in mind. He's hitting it pretty hard already. So he's sort of setting them up for failure. Any little sign of failure, he'll say, well, they're inexperienced. What did you expect? And he says, Engstrand, first-time coordinator. Steve Hayden, first-time line coach, never coached the entire position group. Charles London, only 4 years of experience. So that's not enough for Chimney, 4 years. And then you have passing game coordinator Scott Turner, adding some seasoning to the group. Now, not only that, so the thing that people need to realize with Scott Turner also comes Norv Turner. Anybody remember Norv Turner? One of the great offensive minds in the NFL? Well, that's his dad. Norv Turner is Scott Turner's father, and there's no doubt that Norv will be assisting us. So we sort of got a twofer with Scott Turner. Scott Turner's a twofer. That's what people don't realize. We got Scott Turner and we got Norv Turner. He's going to run everything by Dad. And how do I know that? That's what he did last year with the Raiders. That's what he said he did. He talked frequently with Norv Turner and got his feedback. Why wouldn't you? One of the great offensive minds in football history is your dad. You're not going to run things by him. Of course he is. So we got Scott Turner. We got Norv Turner. So there we go. The third item that Chimney talks about, Rick Spielman, he went back to a podcast from the middle of the season. So this is what Chimney's doing with his spare time. And at that time, Spielman said, I don't think they're going to be there, meaning at Rodgers and Adams. And it's because he didn't want to do a rebuild. And also said it was premature for owner Woody Johnson to fire Robert Saleh, but that's obvious to anyone with a brain. And then here's something interesting about the quarterback carousel. Spielman's presence in the front office might spark Kirk Cousins speculation. Although the GM is Muji, Spielman's just a sounding board. But because the Minnesota GM signed Cousins to a big deal in 2018, maybe we look into Cousins as a short-term option, says Chimney. The Glenn Commandments, Spielman said that he participated virtually in the staff meeting. Said they discussed all the mental and physical traits they want from their players. Obviously, that's one of the first things you do when you have a staff. After listening to Glenn in the meeting, Spielman concluded, I have a feeling this will be a very intense football team. Now, here's something that is a little bit underhanded. So Chimney then went on to contact a lot of the people who didn't get the job. So let's talk to disgruntled people who didn't get the job. Maybe that Spielman got or that Muji got. And let's see what they have to say. So 3 of them pointed out to ESPN the connection between Spielman, Muji, and current Denver Broncos GM George Paton, suggesting something fishy going on. But they didn't say what the fishy thing was. Paton is a Spielman protege who worked at his side for several years with the Vikings. Paton gave a strong endorsement for Muji, so of course he knows him. In turn, Muji hired Spielman. Well, really, Woody hired Spielman, so not really Muji. From the team's perspective, the objective was to give Muji an experienced and compatible person to lean on. Yeah, so I don't think there's anything fishy there. But if you talk to disgruntled people, they'll say they'll come up with something fishy for sure. So this is interesting that this is coming out now, and this is along the lines of what we talked about on this channel with the Legends Council. The Legends Council. Several former Jets told ESPN they're thrilled that Woody Johnson hired a former player to coach the team. And they said they hope Johnson will take a hands-off approach, letting his new hires run the show. Quote, if Woody is reading this article, Woody, let your football people make the football decisions, said Marvin Washington, who played with the Jets from 89 to 96. Stand back and you will enjoy the fruits of their labor. Let's hope we enjoy all the fruits of their labor. But at least some of these legends now are coming out and saying this. This is a very positive thing because Woody does need to hear it. And so maybe the Legends Council is exactly what he needed, exactly as I told you guys. Super Bowl Sunday, as of Friday, 4 former Jets. Oh, I don't care about that. I guess I'm probably happiest for Mackay. Went through a lot with us. He's not the same guy we had here. He changed his whole attitude and physicalness. Lost the weight, etc., etc. So he gets to be in the Super Bowl. Huff has struggled to get on the field, Bryce Huff. 13 snaps in 3 playoff games. And you're paying the man $17 million for 13 snaps in 3 playoff games. And he was a non-factor in the entire regular season. So, The Chiefs, and did you know, the Chiefs and Jets played almost the same number of one-score games in the regular season. The Chiefs went 11-0. The Jets, 3-7. Last word, I've talked with the Jets. We'll figure things out when we figure them out. Aaron Rodgers. All right, so that's a Dick Chimney article. That's the latest from Dick Chimney land, the smoke blower. So that's good. Next up, what about Deebo Samuel? The Niners are expected to explore trading standout wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel. I would say we're not interested in Deebo Samuel. This guy really has had one really good year. It's enough of a possibility that both sides appear to be at peace with moving on if it goes that way. So it's going to be a very newsworthy off season in about a month's time. About a month from now, we're going to be talking about all these kind of moves that could be made. But if you look at a guy like Deebo Samuel, he had this one big year here Other than that, if you look at it, really, Garrett Wilson has had 3 years better than any year that Debo has ever had, except this one giant year, which is really remarkable because if you asked any football fan, all right, who do you want, Debo or Garrett? They'd probably all say Debo, right? But I mean, he did have a monster 2021 season. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this was an incredible year. But other than this, he hasn't had one season better than Garrett Wilson, really, which is remarkable. I mean, if I asked you guys objectively, take your Jet fan hat off, who do you want, Debo or Garrett? Well, it's going to be hard for you guys to answer. You're going to say Garrett, but if you ask a non-Jet fan, right, who isn't really paying attention and just kind of like knows who people are, but isn't really looking at the stats at the moment or anything, and goes, "Do you want Debo or you want Garrett Wilson?" They'd probably say, "Yeah, give me Debo." I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. This guy's injured, and by the way, knock on wood, Garrett has not missed a game his whole career so far. So that's some interesting news. What about the Titans? They might trade the number one pick, so we could see some trades for the draft. Among the monumental decisions to be made this NFL offseason, few are bigger than what looms for the Tennessee Titans, attempting to reboot their franchise with an overhauled front office and the need to find a franchise quarterback. Tennessee holds the number one selection, which begins April 24th, by the way. April 24th is a long time away. What the Titans decide to do and when they decide to do it will set in motion events that go far beyond what happens to their own franchise. Chad Brinker, the president of football ops, said they won't pass on a generational talent. New general manager Mike Borgonzi, the Borgoncinator, whose previous team the Chiefs built through the draft and are playing on Sunday, made clear using draft capital wisely is a priority. We'll supplement in free agency, but want to build through the draft, Borgonzi told reporters. Oh, just like every team. We need to build the core foundation of players to really change the culture, and that takes a little bit of time. Aha. Though he says all the same things that every GM says, no problem. BC Salami says, Debo's a bruiser, but he gets hurt. Yeah, he gets hurt, and he also doesn't produce much, other than that 1 year. Examining the futures of, so these pass rushers could get big time contracts, so that's something to watch out for. And also, Myles Garrett could be traded. Now, what about other news of the day? Did you know that the Jets hired a cornerback coach? Did you know? So yesterday I put out a tweet on X going off of this interview that Sauce Ahmad did with Greg Owlman, I guess. And in this interview, he says that he's been in the facility and he met his new cornerbacks coach, Coach Bly. And of course, the team and none of our beat reporters have said anything about a Coach Bly. So I put out a tweet that said, Ahmad mentions Coach Bly in this interview as the Jets' new cornerback coach. This hire has not been announced by the team or any of our dopey beat writers, but I assume this is Dre Bly. So another spot on AG's staff has been filled. Seems like a good hire. 43 career picks as a player. Maybe he can assist Ahmad in that area. And then it was later confirmed. Another outlet, I think it's the Jet Press or something, put something out saying, yeah, he's been hired. So who is Dre Bly? Donald Andre Bly is an American football coach and former player who's a defensive analyst for Charlotte. So the connection here is with Charlotte. The connection is with Coach Wilkes. He played cornerback for 11 seasons. You may remember him as a player, had a long career. and pretty good career. And you can see his history here now. He does not have a ton of coaching experience, but the way I see it, Wilkes and Glenn both come from a defensive back perspective. So they wanted to probably go cheap here, to be honest. I'm sure that Glenn has his budget for all of his coaches. He can't spend wildly on all of them. So, in a place where they have experience in the head coach and in the DC, well, let's take a little bit of a less experienced coach as the cornerback coach, because he's not going to command as big of a salary. So, only 1 year in the NFL with the Detroit Lions. So, that's the overlap with Glenn. So, both Glenn and uh, Wilkes know Dre Bly. Now, he had a long career, Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowl. So, he has good experience as a player, but not that much as a coach as of right now. And he does have 43 career interceptions, so maybe he can help Ahmad with that. And you see here, Hall of Fame player Dre Bly is carving out his corner as a UNC football coach. I think he's not a pro football Hall of Fame and a Hall of Famer, I don't think. Is he? Well, he was a great player, that's for sure. And now it says here, yeah, he's in the college football Hall of Fame, not the pro. But he was on Mac Brown's staff, so we took a number of players from Mac Brown's teams, including Michael Carter, if you remember. Bly doesn't want to be the kind of coach, this says, that dazzles with X's and O's and football jargon. His approach is simply to relate on a personal level, which allowed him to make a smooth transition into coaching. What you can teach a player, how he responds to you, is what matters, and I think that's a skill set I bring to coaching, Bly said. So it hasn't been a challenge to me. The biggest thing with me has been I've been determined throughout my career to be successful. Whatever I touch, wherever I decide to do, I'm determined to continue to grow and get better. All right. But before he got into coaching, he did a lot of research, similar to Aaron Glenn, and that included returning to UNC, and wanted to decide, hey, is this for me? And they say you could tell he wanted to be a great coach. Everything is in the want to and the willingness and the humility to be able to have an open mind and say, I want to learn. I know how to do it as a player, but doing it as a coach is different. And I think he's done a great job of that. So now this is a young coach, but a guy who had a long career. I think he'll get along great with our players. So I think it's a good hire, but he's a young coach. We don't know how effective he's going to be yet. The Meadowland Swamp Thing is here. So if you want to listen to that song, it is available on this channel. I guess we should talk about the channel as well. This is a good excuse for this before we continue on with the news. So if you want to listen to the Frankie from Flatbush theme song, there is a music video on this channel you can find very easily. If you want to listen to that at any time in your personal goings on in your life. But also there's a new join button on this channel. If you want to join the inner circle, it's now open for joining. And I would recommend you do so. For example, if you had joined the inner circle, you would have already been able to watch a video about our draft choices that is out now, but only for people who are in the inner circle. And tomorrow it's going to be out for everybody else. So early access, if that's what you're looking for. Also exclusive posts on the community tab and other things that we'll do when more people decide to join the inner circle. But you can do that now. And also Super Chat is open, so you guys should see the Super Chat button if you so care to do so. That is open to be done as well. So PC says you need backup dancers, some young hunter. Yeah, well, if I had a budget, PC, if I told you the budget for that song and the video, you'd be shocked to learn how low it is. But if you want backup dancers and some young hotties, guess what? They're not cheap, Salami. You think these young hotties come cheap? They don't. They don't come cheap. Hell no. You want some young hotties dancing around? Yeah, you can get them, but you better get ready to pay up. And how much do I really want to pay up? Malone Lobby is here. Good to see you, buddy. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So feel free to join the inner circle. As more people join, there'll be more content for those folks. And feel free to send in a super chat. Why not? Now, I don't know if I can see a super chat from Restream. So that'll have to be, that's yet to be determined. uh, so hopefully, I'll see what that looks like on Restream at some point. Um, so yeah, Dre Bly. Now, the second news item here is we've hired someone else. Let's get rid of this. We've hired someone else, according to Brian Costello, the only one who had it from our dopey beat reporters right here. Jets coach Aaron Glenn has added John Berger to his staff as game management coach, per sources. Berger worked for the Giants from 1987 to 2021. That's a long time in various roles. He has worked for the NFL since then, including as VP of Replay, Vice President of Replay. So who's this John Berger fella? This is an old head now that we're putting on the staff. So Samini was complaining about the lack of experience on the staff. Well, we added this guy. Now, this is a very experienced dude. Look at his experience. He was a statistician for the Knicks for 31 years. Then he worked for the Giants for 34 years. This guy has a lot of experience. And then he went into the NFL. And he what he did was he was an officiating trainer. He trained the officials. We got this guy on our staff now. This is a guy who trained the officials. And then he was vice president instant replay. So he knows all about how the replay works and things of that nature. So I think this is a great hire, actually, for a first-time head coach like Aaron Glenn. Why not get an old head like this dude? Has so much experience. He's seen it all. He was with the Giants in the glory days. All right, and he's been around good organization. Been around the NFL for a long time. So why not add him to the staff? And he's going to be a game management guy, but you can see he just seems to be like a smart dude. And tons of experience, 30 plus years, 37, 38 years of experience. So I think that's pretty good to put on your staff. Why not? So, we do have some experience on this staff. Yes, there's some first timers, including the head coach and the offensive coordinator, most notably. Okay, yeah. But we got some old heads around. Wilkes, John Berger now. The defensive line coach is a very experienced dude. So I don't know. I kind of like the staff considering our options that we did have. It's not like we had the best situation in the world. But there you go. Those are the breaking news items from yesterday. Our beat reporters are basically on vacation or not really working that hard. If you think about it right now, they're either down in New Orleans getting drunk and increasing their number of contacts they have and all the people they can call and have sources, and or they're just on vacation. I guess they got to take vacation. They have a hard job of making up crap to publish. But that's about it as far as the news is concerned. But the good news is it's looking like we're going to get a decision from the Rodgers angle probably this week. And then Then a lot of dominoes start to fall as to what this season's going to look like. What are we doing going forward? What's the draft going to look like, etc., etc. Looking to see if there's any late breaking news. Does not seem to be any. Zach Kiefer is reporting that Cooper Kupp is out in LA. I'm not sure why really they're getting rid of him instead of just reducing his salary or something like that. Um, so the interesting thing with the Rams is what they're going to do with the quarterback there. Is he going to be pissed off that they're getting rid of Cooper Kupp, his security blanket there? The Goat House is reporting, and Dom C is reposting, that the Giants are expected to explore the idea of trading up to the first overall pick. They also have interest in adding a free agent quarterback. Sam Darnold and Russell Wilson are players to watch for the Giants. So, man. So this is going to be a very interesting offseason as all of these things come about. But I would recommend following me on X if you're not already as well, because that's where all the news really breaks and all the opinions happen in real time. Phil Adams says, building the team from inside out. Yeah. Salami says, I'm comfortable with the defensive staff so far, but not confident on the offensive side. I like special teams hire, but only 2 years experience makes it a question mark. Yeah. I mean, you got to understand, though, that the offensive coaches are the ones that are highly, highly, highly sought after, right? And so we're the Jets. We don't have the best situation. We don't have the young future quarterback, one. And two, we got a meddlesome owner that there's been lots of media reports about. Seems like a lot of it's been hogwash, actually, or things out of context, but still not the greatest. And we haven't won in forever, right? And our team's in New Jersey, which is a terrible state to live in with high taxes, all that stuff. And we play on artificial surface, and the stadium's not great. And so we don't have a great situation. So if the offensive coaches are highly sought after in general in the market, what's the chance they want to come here? I mean, Ben Johnson told us, no, thank you. He did not even want to interview. That's per his agent, Rick Smith. He told us, no, thank you, before we could even talk to him. And I'm pretty sure Liam Cohen did the same. So the hot offensive names are not coming here. So where does that leave us? Well, the best thing to probably do then is to take a chance on a young, smart kid like Tanner and pair him up with an old head like Scott and Norv Turner. Yeah, Joe, we already talked about this. I've been talking about this all day, Joe. Not breaking news, Joe. Not breaking news. But thanks for coming in. Right. So we have, so that's our situation, Salami. Like, considering our situation, I think we did really well. We're not a model franchise. We don't have a young hot quarterback. We don't have a Drake May. We don't have a Josh Allen. We don't have any of that. We don't even have a Caleb Williams, who's a question mark. We don't have Jaden Daniels. We don't have CJ Stroud. We don't have these people. So yeah, we hired John Berger. We just talked about that, Infrared. Good to see you. So, that's the situation we're in, Salami. So, given that context, I think we did about as well as you could expect, really. We're taking a chance with a young OC, all right, but we're complimenting him with Scott Turner, who also comes along with Norv Turner. That's not too bad of a combo, And don't forget, we have Sean Jefferson here. He's a highly respected wide receiver coach. Yeah, we got an inexperienced running back coach, but Probably the biggest question mark. And now that this coaching staff is pretty much filled out, I think I'll do a tiered list of the coaching staff. The one I'm worried about the most is probably Steve Hyden, because the offensive line coach is the most important coach on the staff other than the OC and the DC. And Hyden is the one that I'm a little worried about because he's a tight end coach, which is great. And he played tight end in the league for a long time. And maybe he'll help us get a tight end who can block somebody. So that's good. But I'd like us to hire like an assistant offensive line coach who's got some experience. That's the one thing that I would say that I'm a little concerned about. But then again, those O line coaches are in great demand. Great demand. Everybody now knows, I think, especially with the success of the Eagles, everybody pays Jeff Stoutland, a lot of credit, gives Jeff Stoutland a lot of credit. They call it Stoutland University. And everybody kind of realizes that, whether it's the Detroit Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles, these offensive lines and therefore their line coaches are super important. And so the O line coach is a place you really shouldn't, um, try to save some money. You really need to pay those guys because they will repay that investment back significantly, big time. Um, so um, that's the one thing, and I'm hoping maybe we get an old head to come in here and supplement Hayden. Kind of like what we're doing with Turner and Angstrand. So we'll see, but that's the one thing that scares me a little bit. A little bit. Ohio is here. Good to see you, Ohio. Yeah, they pretty much cleaned up shop. Yeah, the only guy we kept in infrared was Sean Jefferson, which is fine. Jefferson's a good coach, so we kept him. It's fine by me. By the way, this logo in the top left is created by the great Infrared Jets. So if you like this logo, you can thank Infrared Jets, and maybe you can hire him to make a logo for you. He's a logo master. Yeah, O line coach, definitely a concern. Yeah, now maybe Hayden will be great. You got to hope Angstrand and Hayden turn out to be great coaches, and they're awesome. Maybe Steve Hayden's the next Jeff Stoutland. We can all pretend that we can all hope and dream, right? But you just don't know. You just don't know. Yeah, exactly. And what we hope is that the combination of the plays that Angstrand's going to have and run in the playbook, and then the coaching, including the tight ends blocking. Can we get a tight end to block somebody? It's been 5 years. We can't get a blocking tight end in here. Like, just go get one. Get a Mo Alley Cox. Get a guy who can really block. And you know it because he's already done so. They don't cost a lot on the market. Get a blocking tight ends are worth their weight in gold, in my opinion. You can do so much with them. Look at that guy Wright, number 89 on the Lions. We need that type of guy. I think his name is Matthew Wright. He doesn't get a lot of praise. Laporta is the one who catches all the passes, and everybody knows Sam Laporta, and rightly so. He's awesome at what he does. But Wright is the one blocking a lot of the time, and he doesn't get any fanfare, and he's not going to cost a lot of money if there's another free agent who's that quality of blocker. Go get him, and maybe the combination between Hayden, Angstrand, and then increasing the quality of the players. Like, I think one of the things we're going to do in the draft probably is take in the first round, if Rodgers comes back in the first round, we'll probably take that tackle from LSU, Campbell, and then that fills out the offensive line. Then we sign a good blocking tight end and sign another pass catcher tight end. You know, Conk can continue to be the pass catching tight end if he wants, but then sign a blocker, and now you have a really good line. And now you hopefully have better coaches, and now you hopefully have better plays, and they get executed better, and then you get a running game, right? So there's a lot of things to put in place, but that's what we need. That's what we need here, and so hopefully. And now the good news is, I mean, AG and Hayden and Turner and all these people have been in other teams. They've seen it work, right? AG has seen what the Lions did to get the results they got on offense. You could say, but he's a defensive coach. Yeah, he was in practice every day. He was going against their offense. He was figuring out every day in practice. Uh, yeah, AFG, it's going to be O line in the first. Sorry, buddy. Pretty sure, unless the guy's gone, because there's really only one player to take where we're up. But yeah, and that's the most important thing. Think about how the Lions built their team, right? They went and got Penei Sewell. That was a key piece, first pick of the Dan Campbell era, and then they just built out that line, and then everything followed from there. It's the best way to do it. Best way to do it. And so AG's been there, Hayden's been there, and they saw what Campbell and the GM there, Brad Holmes, did, and they saw the results they got. And as a defensive coordinator, he had to go against that offense every day in practice, right? So every day he's trying to stop that offense in practice, and he's looking at it going, damn, this offensive line can block their butt off, and look at this, look at this tight end blocking, da da da. So that if you're looking for it from an optimistic standpoint, you can say, well, AG doesn't have any head coaching experience, but man, look at all the experience he does have coaching wise, especially being over in Detroit as they built it up along the way and how they did that. And I think it's likely that we're going to follow the same blueprint. Why wouldn't you? It makes sense. You build out the trenches, and then you get the playmakers. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. So I think that's probably what we're going to do, but we never know until we see it happen. We never know until we see it happen. Super Bowl. Oh, nah. I guess we won't get into that story. Super Bowl ticket sales are down on the secondary market. The prices are down. People don't want to go to New Orleans, it seems. Still selling for thousands of dollars, but down. Down. Has to do with New Orleans, I think. All right, just checking for any last minute news. Doesn't seem like anything else is going to come out. We are going to come back for the old Super Bowl later today. It is Super Bowl Sunday. Doesn't seem to be anything here. It is Super Bowl Sunday. And tonight at 6:30, we'll come back and we'll do a watch along. We'll see if the refs are going to hand it to the Kansas Swifty Queefs. And they might. They just might hand it over to the Kansas Swifty Chiefs. Yeah, tight end. We'll see what we do in free agency. I would like to get a blocking tight end in free agency at least. And this draft, by all accounts, all experts, it should be a deep tight end draft. So we may be able to wait until the third or fourth round to get a good one. So that may be what we do. We have a lot of holes to fill on defense, but of course we got to see what we do in free agency. A lot of that flows from the Rodgers decision. How do they redo that contract? How do they redo Adams' contract if he's going to be back? If none of those people are back, then you have all the dead cap hits and all of those type of things to deal with. That determines how much money you have in free agency. That determines who you get in free agency, and then who you get in free agency determines what your needs are going into the draft. But with all that said, it seems likely that we have a lot more holes on defense than offense. So if we get a tight end in the draft, probably wouldn't be a second round pick. Probably wouldn't be a second round pick if I had to guess, but you never really know. And also depends who slides down there. But if we don't have the three amigos, it's more of a rebuild situation. So you could really go BPA every round because you're not going to compete next year, most likely, without without the three amigos. So, we'll see. Too much to be determined yet to focus on any specific position, I would say, except for the first round. First round, it seems obvious to me that we need that tackle from LSU. Yeah, so they're just reporting that Kellen Moore is expected to become the New Orleans Saints head coach at the end of this game tonight. So that will end the coaching carousel. Then he's got to get his, all of his assistant coaches and so forth in place. Then we'll begin the quarterback carousel. Todd says, give Frankie a like. Yeah, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Um, hit the join button if you want to join the inner circle. $5 a month to support. But if you don't want to do any of that, just a like on the old video would be greatly appreciated. And with that said, I'll see you guys tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the Super Bowl. We'll take a look at this Super Bowl and see if the refs are really going to throw it for the Swifties, or what will happen, or will it be the Eagles and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and all the boys from Philadelphia. So I'll see you guys tonight.